12 steps to fully surrender your life to the Holy Spirit. You think your problem is everything happening around you, the pressure, the uncertainty, the things not going the way you planned. You look at your life and you say, if this changes, if that improves, if things finally align, then I'll feel at peace. But that is not the real struggle. The real struggle is control. Because no matter how much changes around you, as long as you feel the need to control everything, the weight never leaves. You keep thinking, planning, adjusting, trying to stay ahead of what might happen next. You replay conversations in your mind. You anticipate problems that have not even happened. You carry outcomes that are not yours to carry. And slowly, it exhausts you. Not just physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You wake up already thinking about what you need to manage. You go through your day trying to keep everything together. And at night, your mind does not rest because it is still trying to solve what you cannot control. And deep inside, there is a truth you are starting to feel. This is too heavy, not because you are weak, but because you were never meant to carry it this way. Control gives you the illusion of safety. It makes you believe that if you hold everything tightly enough, nothing will fall apart. But the tighter you hold, the more pressure you create. And that is where surrender begins. Not when everything breaks, but when you realize you cannot keep living like this. Because surrender is not losing. It is releasing what was never yours to sustain. It is stepping out of a position you were never designed to occupy. It is finally allowing God to lead where you have been trying to control. And this is where the shift starts, because the moment you begin to question your need for control, you start to see something you have never fully seen before. You were never actually in control. The illusion that you are in control. There is something your mind has been telling you for a long time. If you think enough, plan enough, prepare enough, you can control what happens next. It feels real. It feels responsible. It feels like the right way to live, but it is an illusion, because control is not about what actually happens. It is about what you think you can manage. You try to predict outcomes. You try to prepare for every possibility. You try to make decisions that guarantee results. But no matter how much effort you put into it, there are always variables you cannot reach. People you cannot control, situations you cannot predict, timing you cannot accelerate, and yet you keep trying. Because letting go of control feels dangerous. It feels like stepping into uncertainty. It feels like losing stability. But here is the truth. You were never fully in control to begin with. You were managing perception, not reality. Because if you truly had control, nothing unexpected would ever happen, nothing would ever go wrong, nothing would ever catch you off guard. But that is not how life works. And deep down, you know it. That is why control creates anxiety. Because you are trying to hold something that keeps slipping. You are trying to manage something that was never designed to be managed by you alone. And that creates tension. Because part of you knows you cannot sustain this forever. But another part of you is afraid to release it, afraid of what happens if you stop trying to control everything, afraid of what comes next, and that fear keeps you holding on, even when it is hurting you. But the moment you begin to see control for what it really is, something starts to shift. You begin to realize that what you thought was strength might actually be the reason you feel so tired. And that leads you into something deeper, because once you see the illusion, you cannot ignore what it has been costing you. The exhaustion of trying to hold everything together. You have been carrying more than you admit. Not just responsibilities, not just decisions, but the invisible weight of trying to keep everything from falling apart. You hold your thoughts in place, your emotions under control, your plans aligned, your image intact. You try to stay strong, stay composed, stay ahead of everything. And no one really sees it, because from the outside you are functioning, you are showing up, you are doing what needs to be done. But inside, something feels drained. You are tired in a way that rest does not fix, because this kind of exhaustion does not come from doing too much. It comes from holding too much. You carry outcomes that are not yours to determine. You carry expectations that were never clearly defined. You carry fears about things that have not even happened. You carry the pressure of making everything work, as if everything depends on you. And slowly, that weight builds. You start to feel it in your thoughts. They become heavier, slower, more repetitive. You start to feel it in your emotions. Small things affect you more than they should. You start to feel it in your decisions. Even simple choices begin to feel overwhelming. And the hardest part is this: you do not know how to stop, because letting go feels irresponsible. It feels like if you release control, everything will collapse. So you keep holding even when your strength is fading. You keep pushing even when your energy is gone. You keep trying even when nothing is changing. And that is where the exhaustion becomes deeper. Because now it is not just physical, it is internal. You feel disconnected from peace. You feel distant from clarity. You feel like you are constantly managing, but never actually resting. And this is where something needs to be understood. This exhaustion is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are carrying what was never yours to carry. Because if you were meant to hold everything together, you would not feel like this. The weight would match your strength, but it does not. And that is the message. Your exhaustion is revealing something. Not about your limits, but about your position. You are trying to hold a place that was never designed for you. And until that changes, the exhaustion will remain. But here is where it gets real, because even when you recognize the weight, even when you feel how tired you are, something still holds you back from letting go. And that something is not the weight itself. It is the fear of what happens if you release it. The fear of letting go without knowing what comes next. You feel the weight. You recognize the exhaustion. You know something needs to change. And still, you hesitate. Not because you want to keep suffering, but because you do not know what happens if you let go. That is the real barrier. It is not the pain. It is the unknown. Because control, even when it is exhausting, feels familiar. You know how to think, how to react, how to manage. It may be heavy, but at least it is predictable. Surrender feels different. It feels like stepping into something you cannot define. It feels like releasing your grip without knowing what will catch you. And that creates fear. What if things get worse? What if I lose everything? What if I make the wrong decision? What if nothing happens? These questions do not come from logic. They come from the need to feel safe, because your mind is trying to protect you from uncertainty. But here is the truth you need to face. You are already in uncertainty. Control has not removed it. It has only hidden it. Because no matter how much you plan, no matter how much you think, no matter how much you try to anticipate, you still do not know what comes next. You are already living in the unknown. The only difference is this. Right now, you are trying to manage it alone. And that is why it feels so heavy. Surrender does not create uncertainty. It changes how you walk through it. It shifts you from trying to control what you cannot to trusting the one who already sees it. But trust requires something difficult, release. Not partial, not conditional, real. And that is where the tension is. Because part of you wants peace, but another part is afraid of what it will cost. You want clarity, but you are afraid of not having control. You want direction, but you hesitate to let go of your own. And that internal conflict keeps you stuck. Not because you cannot move forward, but because you are trying to hold on and let go at the same time. And that does not work. There is a moment in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 to 6 that speaks about trusting with all your heart and not leaning on your own understanding. That is not a suggestion, it is a shift. Because as long as you rely on what you can understand, you will resist what you cannot control. And surrender requires you to step beyond that, not blindly, but intentionally. You are not stepping into nothing, you are stepping out of self-reliance and into guidance. But to do that, something has to break. Because fear will keep you holding on until you reach a point where holding on hurts more than letting go. And that moment changes everything. When you realize your way is not working anymore, there is a moment where everything becomes undeniable. Not because someone told you, not because something dramatic happened, but because you can no longer ignore the pattern. You have been trying your way, thinking your way out, planning your way forward, controlling every detail you can reach. And still, something is not aligning. You get partial results but no peace. You move forward but something feels off. You achieve things but the weight does not leave. And at some point you stop and realize something that is hard to accept. This is not working. Not completely. Not in the way you hoped. Not in the way you need. And that realization is uncomfortable. Because it challenges everything you have relied on. It confronts the idea that if you just tried harder, things would eventually fall into place. It exposes the truth that effort alone is not the solution. And for a moment, you resist it. You try one more time. You push a little more. You adjust your approach, but deep inside you already know. The same method will not produce a different result. And that is where the shift begins. Because this is not failure. This is awareness. Awareness that your strength has limits. Awareness that your control has boundaries. Awareness that your way is not enough to take you where you are meant to go. And that truth is not meant to discourage you. It is meant to redirect you. Because as long as you believe your way will eventually work, you will never release it. You will keep holding on, keep trying to fix, keep exhausting yourself in a cycle that does not lead to real change. But when you finally accept that your way is not working, something opens. You become available for a different approach, available for a different direction, available for something beyond your own understanding. And that is where surrender becomes real, not as an idea, but as a necessity. Because now it is no longer about preference, it is about truth. You cannot keep doing the same thing and expect peace to appear. You cannot keep controlling everything and expect freedom to come. Something has to change, and that change begins with a decision to stop trying to control the outcome and start trusting the process. But here is where it becomes even deeper, because many people reach this realization and still hesitate, not because they do not want change, but because they are still trying to control how surrender happens. And that leads to the next step. The moment you stop negotiating with God. There is a point where surrender stops being partial. Before that, you are still negotiating. You say you trust God, but only if things happen a certain way. You say you are willing to follow, but only if the path makes sense. You say you surrender, but you still try to control the outcome, and without realizing it, you create conditions. I will let go if this works out. I will trust if I feel peace first. I will follow if I understand where this is going. But that is not surrender. That is control in a different form, because you are still deciding the terms, and as long as you are negotiating, you are not fully releasing. You are holding part of it back, and that is why the weight remains, because partial surrender still carries pressure. You release some things, but keep others. You trust in moments, but take control back when it feels uncomfortable. You move forward, but only within limits you define, and that keeps you in between, not fully in control. Not fully surrendered, just stuck in tension. But there is a moment when something shifts, not gradually, clearly. You reach a point where you stop trying to control how God works. You stop trying to define the outcome. You stop setting conditions for your obedience. And you say something different, not with words only, but with your position. Not my way, not my timing, not my understanding, yours. That is the moment negotiation ends and real surrender begins. Because now, you are not asking God to align with your plan. You are choosing to align with His, and that changes everything. Because when you stop negotiating, you stop resisting. When you stop resisting, you become available. And when you become available, something begins to move, not outside first, inside. Your need to control begins to weaken. Your resistance begins to soften. Your trust begins to grow. And for the first time, you feel something different. Not pressure, not confusion, but release. Because surrender is not about losing control. It is about giving it back to the one who was meant to have it from the beginning. And once you reach this point, something new is required from you. Because now that you have stopped negotiating, you are invited to step into something that goes beyond logic, something that does not come with proof, something that cannot be explained before it is lived. Trusting without having proof. This is where surrender becomes real, because it is one thing to say you trust, and another thing to move when you have no evidence. You want confirmation, you want clarity, you want something you can point to and say, "This is why I am doing this." But that is not how this works. Because if you had proof, it would not require trust, it would require logic. And surrender does not operate on logic alone, it operates on trust. You feel a direction, but you cannot explain it. You sense a step, but you do not see the outcome. You know something inside you is guiding you, but you cannot justify it externally. And this is where most people stop. Because they wait for confirmation, they wait for clarity, they wait for certainty, and in that waiting, they stay stuck. Because the Holy Spirit does not always reveal the outcome before the step. He reveals the step and invites you to follow. There is a moment in Hebrews chapter 11 verse 8 where Abraham is called to go to a place he would later receive as inheritance. But he went without knowing where he was going. That is not confusion. That is trust. And that is what you are being invited into, not blind movement, but confident obedience without full visibility. You take one step, and then the next becomes clear. You move forward, and then alignment begins to show. You act on what you feel inside, and then understanding follows. But if you refuse to move without proof, you will never experience what comes after trust, because proof often comes after obedience, not before. And that is the shift. You stop asking, "Do I have enough evidence?" And you start asking, "Do I recognize His direction?" Because if you do, that is enough. And the more you trust without proof, the more your confidence grows, not in outcomes, but in Him. You begin to see that even when you did not understand, you were guided correctly. Even when you could not explain, things aligned. Even when you felt uncertain, you were not wrong. And that builds something deeper than logic. It builds faith, a faith that is not dependent on what you see. A faith that moves before everything is revealed, and that changes how you live. Because now you are no longer waiting for certainty. You are responding to direction, and once you begin to live like that, something else begins to loosen inside you. Because trust without proof requires something else to be released. The need to understand everything before you move. Releasing the need to understand everything. There is a part of you that wants to understand everything before you move. You want clarity before commitment. You want explanation before obedience. You want to see how it will all unfold before you take the first step. And it feels reasonable. It feels responsible. But it is also what keeps you stuck. Because not everything is meant to be understood, before it is lived. Some things are only revealed in motion, and that is where surrender challenges you. Because as long as you need full understanding, you will resist anything that requires trust. You will delay decisions, you will question direction, you will hesitate in moments where movement is necessary, not because you are not willing, but because you are trying to understand what can only be experienced. And that creates tension. You feel the direction, but your mind asks for explanation. You sense the step, but your logic demands proof. You recognize something is happening, but you want to define it before you follow it. And the more you try to understand everything, the more you slow down what is meant to move, because the Holy Spirit does not reveal everything at once. He reveals what you need when you need it. If He showed you the entire path, you would rely on the plan. But by not showing everything, He teaches you to rely on Him. And that is where surrender deepens. You begin to accept that not knowing everything is not a weakness. It is part of the process. You begin to move without needing full explanation. You begin to act on what is clear, even if everything else is not. You begin to trust that what you do not understand now will make sense later. And that changes your posture. You stop trying to control through understanding. You start walking through trust. There is a moment in Isaiah chapter 55, verse 8 to 9, where it says that His thoughts are not your thoughts, and His ways are not your ways. That is not meant to confuse you. It is meant to reposition you. Because if His ways are higher, then your role is not to fully understand them before you move. Your role is to follow them as they are revealed. And the more you release the need to understand everything, the lighter you become. You stop overthinking every step. You stop delaying what is clear. You stop trying to solve what has not been revealed yet. And in that release, something powerful happens. You become flexible, open, available. And that is exactly what allows the next shift to take place. Because once you stop needing to understand everything, you become able to accept something most people resist: the interruption of your own plans. Allowing the Holy Spirit to interrupt your plans. You had a plan. Clear, structured, thought through. You knew where you were going, how you were going to get there, and what needed to happen next. It made sense. It felt right. It gave you a sense of direction. And then something changed. Not everything. Just enough. A delay, a redirection, a closed door, an unexpected shift. And suddenly what you planned no longer fits the moment you are in. And your first instinct is to resist it. Because interruption feels like disruption. It feels like something went wrong. It feels like your progress has been stopped. But what if it has not been stopped? What if it has been redirected? Because the Holy Spirit does not always work within your plans. Sometimes He interrupts them, not to confuse you, but to align you. And that is where surrender becomes deeper. Because it is one thing to trust when everything follows your expectation. It is another thing to trust when everything changes without your permission. You begin to feel it. You had something in mind, but now something inside you is leading you somewhere else. You planned one direction, but now you feel pulled toward another. And that creates tension, because your mind wants to hold on to what you already decided. But your spirit is sensing something different, and in that moment, you have a choice. Hold on to your plan, or allow His. And this is where many people struggle. Because letting go of your plan feels like losing progress. It feels like starting over. It feels like giving up something you invested in. But what if you are not losing anything? What if you are being positioned? Because the Holy Spirit sees what you cannot see. He understands what you do not yet understand. He knows where your current path leads and where it should lead. And sometimes the only way to get you there is to interrupt where you are going. Not because your plan was wrong, but because it was incomplete. And now something better is being introduced. But to receive it, you have to release what you were holding. You have to allow the interruption. You have to trust that what is being changed is not being destroyed. It is being improved. And that requires flexibility, not passive, intentional. You begin to move differently. You stop reacting to change as a problem. You start seeing it as direction. You stop holding your plans tightly. You begin to hold them openly. Because now you understand something important. Your plan is not final. His direction is. And the more you allow him to interrupt your path, the more aligned your life becomes. But here is where it becomes even more personal. Because surrender is not just about your plans. It is about you, who you think you are, who you have been, and what you are holding on to as your identity. Letting go of who you used to be. There is a version of you that you have been holding on to, not because it is who you still are, but because it is who you have always known. Your identity, your patterns, your way of thinking, your reactions, the way you see yourself and the way you believe others see you. It has been familiar, predictable, comfortable in its own way, but now something inside you is changing, and that version no longer fits. You begin to feel it in small ways. The things you used to say do not feel natural anymore. The reactions you used to have feel misaligned. The identity you once carried starts to feel like something you are outgrowing, and that creates discomfort. Because letting go of behaviors is one thing, letting go of identity is something deeper. It feels like losing yourself, like stepping away from something that defined you for so long, and that is where resistance shows up. You try to hold on to parts of who you were, even when you feel they no longer belong. You try to stay in patterns that feel familiar, even when something inside you is pulling you away from them. But the more you try to hold on, the more tension you feel, because growth and attachment cannot exist in the same place. The Holy Spirit does not just change what you do, He changes who you are becoming. And that requires release, not because who you were was wrong, but because who you are becoming is different. There are thoughts you need to leave behind, habits that no longer align, ways of seeing yourself that are no longer true. And if you keep holding on to them, you will limit what is trying to grow within you, because you cannot step into something new while holding on to what no longer fits. There is a moment in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 17 that speaks about becoming a new creation, where the old has passed and the new has come. That is not just a spiritual idea, it is a process of release, a process of transformation, a process of allowing yourself to become something you have never been before. And that requires courage, because you are stepping into something unfamiliar. You are letting go of certainty. You are releasing what once defined you without fully knowing what will define you next. But here is the truth. You are not losing yourself. You are discovering who you were meant to be. And the more you release the old, the more space is created for the new to form. Your thoughts begin to change. Your reactions begin to shift. Your identity begins to align with something deeper. And that alignment changes everything. Because now your decisions are no longer based on who you used to be. They are based on who you are becoming. And that leads you into a choice that defines your path. Because once your identity begins to change, you are faced with moments where comfort calls you back. And in those moments, something greater asks you to choose differently, choosing obedience over comfort. There are moments when you know exactly what to do, not because someone told you, not because it is easy, but because something inside you makes it clear. And still, you hesitate, because what is right is not always comfortable. Obedience will ask you to do things that go against what feels natural. It will require you to walk away when you want to stay. It will ask you to speak when it would be easier to remain silent. It will lead you into decisions that stretch you beyond what feels safe, and that is where the real test happens. Not in what you feel, but in what you choose, because comfort will always call you back. It will tell you to stay where things are familiar, to avoid discomfort, to protect your current state, even if that state is limiting you. But obedience calls you forward. It does not promise ease. It promises alignment, and alignment changes everything. There is a moment in John chapter 14, verse 15, where it says that if you love him, you will keep his commands. That is not about obligation. It is about response, because obedience is not forced. It is chosen. And every time you choose obedience over comfort, something shifts inside you. You grow stronger. You become more aligned. You move further into the life you are being led toward. Even if the step feels small, even if it feels difficult, even if no one else understands it. Because obedience is not about external approval, it is about internal alignment. And the more you choose it, the more natural it becomes. You begin to recognize that what once felt uncomfortable becomes familiar. What once felt difficult becomes clear. What once felt like sacrifice becomes freedom, because comfort can keep you stuck, but obedience moves you forward. And the more you respond to that inner direction, the more your life begins to reflect it. Your decisions become sharper, your path becomes clearer, your confidence becomes deeper, not in yourself alone, but in the one guiding you. And as you continue choosing obedience, something else begins to change. Because you are no longer trying to hold everything tightly, you begin to live differently, with a different posture, with a different approach, with a different way of holding your life. Living with open hands, not tight grip. For so long, you have been holding everything tightly. Your plans, your expectations, your relationships, your future. You hold on because it feels like the only way to keep things from slipping away. The tighter you grip, the safer you feel, at least for a moment. But that grip comes with pressure, because the tighter you hold, the more fear you create. Fear of losing, fear of change, fear of things not going the way you expect. And that fear keeps you in a constant state of tension, always watching, always adjusting, always trying to maintain control. But surrender changes your posture. You stop living with a tight grip, and you begin to live with open hands, not careless, not passive, but trusting. You still care, you still plan, you still move forward, but you no longer try to control every outcome. You no longer attach your peace to how things unfold. You no longer hold things as if everything depends on you. You release, not once, continuously, because surrender is not a single decision. It is a daily posture. You wake up and choose to trust again. You move through your day and release again. You face uncertainty and open your hands again. And that changes how you experience life. Because when your hands are open, you are no longer trying to force outcomes. You are allowing direction. When your hands are open, you are no longer afraid of change. You are prepared for it. When your hands are open, you are no longer holding what you fear losing. You are trusting what you cannot control. There is a moment in Matthew chapter 6, verse 25, where it speaks about not worrying about your life. That is not telling you to stop caring. It is inviting you to stop carrying what was never yours to carry. And that is what open hands represent. Release, trust, alignment. You begin to see that holding tightly never guaranteed anything. It only created stress. But releasing creates peace. Because now, your stability is not coming from what you control. It is coming from who you trust. And that trust changes everything. You move differently. You respond differently. You live with a sense of freedom that was not there before. Because now, your life is not built on holding everything together. It is built on allowing God to lead. And when you reach this place, something final begins to settle within you. Because surrender is no longer something you do in moments. It becomes something you live as a person. Surrender becomes your new identity. At the beginning, surrender felt like a decision, something you had to think about, something you had to choose intentionally, something that required effort awareness, and constant reminders to let go. But now, something has changed. It is no longer just something you do. It is becoming who you are. You are not forcing surrender anymore. You are living it. You no longer wake up trying to control everything and then reminding yourself to release. You wake up already positioned differently. Your first instinct is no longer to hold tightly, but to trust. Your reactions are no longer driven by fear of losing control, but by confidence in who is leading you. And that shift is powerful, because identity changes everything. When surrender becomes your identity, you do not struggle with the same tension. You do not fight the same internal battles. You do not feel the same pressure to manage what is not yours. You move differently. You think differently. You decide differently. Because now your life is not centered on control. It is centered on alignment. You begin to see situations differently. What once triggered anxiety now becomes an opportunity to trust. What once made you hold tighter now reminds you to release. What once confused you now becomes something you walk through with clarity, even without full understanding. And this is where freedom becomes real, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer trying to control everything. You are no longer carrying what exhausts you. You are no longer living from a place of pressure. You are living from a place of trust. There is a moment in Galatians chapter 2, verse 20, where it speaks about no longer living by your own life, but allowing Christ to live in you. That is not symbolic. That is transformation, because surrender is not about losing yourself. It is about becoming who you were meant to be. Fully aligned, fully guided, fully at peace with not being in control. And from this place, everything changes. Not always around you immediately, but within you completely. Because now, no matter what comes next, you are not trying to manage it alone. You are not trying to figure everything out by yourself. You are not trying to hold your life together. You are walking with open hands, with a steady heart, with a clear understanding. You are no longer leading your life. You are being led. And that is where true peace begins.